Feliz Navidad and Happy New Year. Feliz Año Nuevo. Today we celebrate the Sagrada Familia, the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. This celebration comes, for obvious reasons, during the Christmas season, when Jesus is born into that family. It's very important for us to recognize how God uses families in the world for our benefit and for His own proclamation, for an evangelical reason. And then we have in both of the first and the second readings an explanation of how we live together well as a family. That's not easy, but that's why St. Paul goes through such lengths to explain to us: be gentle with each other, be kind, be forgiving, be forbearing, right? Because we're all a mess. Every one of us are broken. Every one of us sins. The only perfect family, and it was only perfect to be a model for us, was the Holy Family. And so we look to them to learn why family and how family. Okay? Why is family so important? And how do we live that importance in our own families? So we look at two reasons, really, for the importance of a family. In the beginning, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, they had all sorts of gifts. When they sinned, they lost all those gifts except for two. The first gift they did not lose was marriage. The second gift they did not lose was the ability to procreate, to make a family. Why? Because these two things reflect who God is, and He wants us to know who He is. When a husband and a wife join together, they exemplify how Jesus is going to love His church and how His church is going to love Jesus. And when those two, husband and wife, come together and they have children, it shows to us how God lives within Himself, in His own community. The Father loves the Son so perfectly that their love begets more of themselves in the Holy Spirit. A husband loves a wife, and a wife a husband so perfectly that more of themselves come into the world in the form of children. Marriage and family testify to who God is. And that's so important because we cannot love what we do not know. And so God teaches us in a very basic way who He is through marriage and family. And that's why it was so very appropriate for Jesus to be born into a family. God could have showed up however He wanted. He could have been born out of an elephant. Right? That would have been pretty miraculous, right? People would have paid attention. But He was born simply, in a normal way that we normally are, to show us how close He is to us, that He does the same things that we do so that He can testify to who He is as God. When you live your families well, when you live your marriages well, you are a gospel to the world. You teach the world simply by living correctly. You teach the world something about who God is. And that is so very important in a world that is so confused today. With homosexuality, with transgenderism, with artificial birth control, with divorce, with all these things that the society says, oh no, we're progressing. Isn't it wonderful that we can destroy our families with divorce? Isn't it wonderful that we can keep from having children artificially by putting chemicals in our bodies or by doing whatever? Isn't it wonderful that we can kill our children with an abortion? Isn't it wonderful that we can, pretend like boys can be girls and girls could be boys? Isn't it wonderful that two guys can live and pretend like they're a family in a delusion? Isn't that wonderful? That's what the devil says. But that's evil. And the reason it's evil, one of the reasons it's evil, is because it confuses the testimony of who God is by those relationships. Homosexual relationships are not fruitful. They do not bear fruit. God's relationship with Himself bears fruit, just like a husband and a wife bear fruit. God is who He is, and He made you who you are, and you can't just change that because you want to. Because today you identify as somebody different. No. That contradicts God. It confuses God. It covers over God. God's love is unbounded and it's always freely given. When we use artificial birth control, when we use condoms or the pill or God only knows what else, what we're doing is we're saying our love is only this much, not this much. Our love is not free. It's not given freely and openly all the time. Obviously, when we kill our children in an abortion, how much more backwards is that? Right? You actually have bore the fruit, but you're gonna terminate that life that you shared with God in making. Right? So we see how all these things that the world is saying, oh no, it's wonderful that you can do this, is really evil and bad. And it's bad because it covers over, it blinds us to who God really is. But it does something else. It hurts us. When we live family badly, it doesn't just hurt the rest of our family, it hurts us. We are miserable. When we make our family miserable, it makes us miserable. Right? I don't know if the saying translates into Spanish for those of you who speak English as well. But happy wife, happy life. Feliz esposa, feliz vida. Esposa feliz, vida feliz. Right? And that's true, but it's true for every member of the family. Right? It's not just about the wife. It's about a happy husband, happy life. Happy children, happy life. Happy parents, happy life for the children. So it's important, and happiness doesn't mean always like this. Happiness means like this. This is true happiness. Community. Even when we suffer, even when things are hard, this is happiness. To be together, because that's what heaven is. Heaven is community. Cielo es comunidad. Con Trinidad. Con el Trinidad. Con Santísima Trinidad. Right? Felicidad es comunión de Jesús en el cuerpo. Not in his, in su cuerpo. That's true happiness. And so we want to make our families happy like that. Not give our kids all the toys so that they smile and ha ha ha. Not lie to my wife so that she doesn't know I did something wrong, so she's ha ha ha. That's delusional, that's retarded. But to be in the mess, to be in the fight with one another. And how do we do that when so many times we are the cause, the problem? This is where we get into St. Paul teaching us how to live family. First of all, he says, bear with one another. Forgive one another. Look, if you think... Now, it's fair to think the day that you were married, right? My husband is perfect. It's wonderful. Everything's going to be wonderful. You're delusional, of course, but it's understandable. You might think that, right? The moment you're married, you might think, my wife is the perfect wife because she's still being nice to me, right? You might think that. You're delusional, right? Here's the thing. As soon as you realize it's okay for them not to be perfect, you will be living a better life. They are not there to make your life perfect. They couldn't possibly do that because they're not perfect. So why do you expect them to be there for you to make your life perfect? But instead, if you think to yourself, I'm here to make their life as perfect as I am able to do it. That's my job, to make their life as perfect as I can. I'm imperfect. I'm a sinner. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to hurt them. It's going to get messy, but I am going to do my best to make their life as perfect as possible. I'm not going to think about what they're there. They're not there to make my life perfect. I'm here to make their life perfect. If we think that way, and then we also think, but because they're not perfect, they're going to hurt me once in a while. They're going to fail to do something that I want them to do. They're going to be mean to me. They're going to lose their temper. They're going to be mad at the kids, and then they're going to yell at me because of it. They're going to drink too much, and then they're going to yell at me. They're going to be exhausted when they come home from work, and they're going to be tired and not want to talk. I'm going to get home after a long day of work, and my wife's going to want to talk. Right? This is life. We are not the same person as the person next to us. That is a really, really good thing. The world does not need more of me. One is enough. The world doesn't need more of you. The person sitting next to you is there to help make you better, a better version of yourself. And you're there to do the same for them. So is it okay if we mess up? Yes. But what do we need to do after we mess up? We need to say, I'm sorry. We need to acknowledge that that was not the way I should have behaved. We need to say, I'm going to do better. And then we need to actually do better. If you come home from work every night and you are absent from your family because you're drinking beer or you're passed out on the couch, do better. You don't have to be perfect tomorrow. Do better. Right? If you antagonize your husband to throw pots and pans at him with boiling water in it, right? Don't do that anymore. But figure out how to calm that temper down. You don't need to be perfect tomorrow, but do better. Kids, if you're sneaking out, if you're smoking weed behind the dumpster, if you're sneaking over to your boyfriend or girlfriend's house when you shouldn't, cut that crap out. Do better. Dads, if you're antagonizing your kids and you're poking them and poking them and poking them until they get mad at you and then you smack them back down because they don't talk to me like that because I'm the dad, cut it out. Stop it. Do better. This is what we're here to do. We're not here to be perfect tomorrow. We're here to do better today. To do better for the sake of the person across from us. To do better for the sake of the person next to us. Because we love them. And here's the thing, you do love them. You might not know how to show it because you're so broken. You might not know how to show it because you're addicted to something. You might not know how to show it because you're too emotionally immature. You're barely mature enough to be an adult, much less a parent. That's fine. We have to acknowledge these things. See yourself for who you are and where you are. Recognize your condition and simply start to do better. And we define better as this. He loves her most of all. She loves him most of all. Together they love him best. And he was always obedient to them. She did whatever he wanted to do. He wants to go to Egypt. Mary didn't want to go to Egypt. Why would Mary want to go to Egypt? Joseph wakes up one morning and says, honey, we got to go to Egypt. So they go. And she listened. And he gave his life for her. We don't know anything about Joseph because he probably died so doggone young, working so hard to keep this family going. God love him. This is the way husbands and wives are meant to love one another. Husbands love their wives so much that they do that. And then, is it any surprise that a wife would respect her husband? No, of course. If you're good husbands, you don't have to tell your wife, you need to respect me. If you have to tell your wife that, you're a crappy husband. They do need to respect you, but that's not on them, that's on you. When Paul says, wives, respect or obey your husbands, he's assuming they're worth respecting. Right? You got to be a true man. A true man doesn't exist on the outside. A true man exists on the inside with the strength to die for the person you love. Who would not respect a person who was willing and able to die for them? Who wouldn't obey that person? Because you know that everything they're doing is for your good. Husbands, men, be that person. You must be. If you're married, absolutely. But boys, if you're not married, the girls out there need you to be that kind of guy. It is getting harder and harder for them to find a husband who's worth a damn. Be that man. Learn to be it today. And if your dad is a bad example of that, learn from their mistakes and don't do it yourself. And dads, if you're a bad example, fix it. Acknowledge your weakness. Point it out to your kids. Say, kids, look at this. Look how broken I am. Don't do this. But see these other good things I do? Let me teach you those things. Moms, do not be catty with your daughters. Teach them true femininity. Teach them what it means to be gentle and sweet, because we know men have to be hard sometimes. Men have to be mean. Men have to be violent. Men have to be strong sometimes. We have to have the opposite. We have to have the complementary other half. You don't need to be men, ladies. Stop trying. It's going to make you miserable and it's going to make society look like garbage. You're beautiful. Your job is to make society be beautiful. Start with yourselves. Allow yourself to be sweet. Allow yourself to be gentle. Allow yourself to be forgiving and forbearing. And dads, let me tell you, your daughters are going to look for a man to marry like you. If you don't like the man you are, fear for your daughter. If you don't like the man you are, fear for your daughter. Because they will look for love in another man the way they have received love from you. If you have not treated her like your whole world and your princess and your most treasured possession, she won't know how to expect to be treated by her boyfriend. She learns it from you. And moms, demand respect from your sons so that they learn how to respect their wives the way that they should, to trust them, to know that the feminine other is a support and a strength for them, and not something that's just annoying. We go back to this, though. Let's remember this. None of us are perfect. Don't expect the people in your families to be perfect. Hope that they will try to be better than they are. But remember, the only person in a family you can control is yourself. You be better. And allow other people to fail and still love them. If you do that, your families will be like this. And the whole world that sees you living like this in your family will see God.